Ireland is a land of green hills and wild coasts, of stone cottages and ancient songs. For centuries, its people lived close to the land, their lives shaped by the rhythm of the seasons and the pull of the Atlantic wind. In the small villages and bustling towns, families gathered by the hearth, sharing stories and laughter as the rain tapped gently on the windows. The Irish spirit was strong, rooted in faith, music, and a fierce love for home. But the story of Ireland is also a story of leaving. The seeds of the Irish diaspora were sown long before the world knew its name. In the 17th and 18th centuries, English rule brought hardship and change. Land was taken, laws were passed, and many Irish found themselves strangers in their own country. Some left for distant shores, soldiers, servants, and dreamers seeking a better life in places like France, Spain, and the Americas. They carried with them the memory of home, the lilt of the Irish tongue, and the hope that one day they might return. Yet it was in the 19th century that the great wave of emigration began, a tide that would carry millions across the sea and change the world forever. The year was 1845. In the fields of Ireland, a silent enemy crept among the potato plants. The blight came without warning, turning healthy leaves black and rotting the tubers underground. The potato was more than a crop. It was the heart of the Irish diet, the food that kept families alive through long winters. When the blight struck, hunger followed. The Great Famine, as it would come to be known, lasted from 1845 to 1849. The suffering was unimaginable. Crops failed year after year. Families watched their children grow thin and weak. Neighbors buried neighbors in shallow graves. The British government sent some aid, but it was not enough. Soup kitchens opened, but the lines grew longer each day. Evictions were common, as landlords cleared their land of tenants who could no longer pay rent. In the face of despair, the Irish people made a choice. They would leave. The journey began in sorrow. Families sold what little they had to buy passage on ships bound for America, Canada, Australia, and beyond. The vessels were crowded and cold, the holds dark and damp. Disease spread quickly: typhus, cholera, fever. Many ships became known as coffin ships for the number who died before reaching land, yet hope endured. Mothers whispered stories to their children. Fathers sang old songs, and everyone dreamed of a new beginning. For those who survived the crossing, the new world was both a promise and a challenge. In the teeming streets of New York, Boston, and Montreal, Irish immigrants found work as laborers, maids, and factory hands. They built railroads, dug canals, and swept the floors of grand houses. Signs in shop windows sometimes read, "No Irish need apply," but the Irish spirit was not easily broken. They formed tight-knit communities, built churches and schools, and sent money home to those who remained. In Australia, Irish convicts and settlers carved new lives from the bush. In Canada, they braved harsh winters and built towns along the St. Lawrence River. In England and Scotland, they crowded into city slums, working the hardest jobs and facing suspicion from their neighbors. But everywhere they went, the Irish brought with them a sense of kinship, a belief that, even far from home, they were never truly alone. The years passed, and the Irish diaspora grew. By the end of the 19th century, more than 4 million Irish had left their homeland. Some returned, but most stayed, their children and grandchildren becoming Americans, Canadians, Australians, and more. Yet the memory of Ireland remained a thread woven through generations. In the new lands, the Irish made their mark. They became police officers, teachers, politicians, and priests. They fought in wars, marched in parades, and built cities. In America, men like Al Smith and John F. Kennedy rose to the highest offices, their Irish roots a source of pride. In music and literature, the Irish voice rang out poets like Yeats and Joyce, musicians playing fiddles and flutes at kitchen tables and in grand concert halls. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that bring history's greatest mysteries to life. But the story of the Irish diaspora is not just one of hardship and success. It is a story of longing, a homesickness that never quite faded. Letters crossed the ocean, filled with news of births and deaths, of weddings and wakes. Parcels of tea and woolens, of photographs and pressed flowers, traveled back and forth, binding families together across the miles. In the 20th century, Ireland itself began to change. The Easter Rising of 1916, the War of Independence, and the creation of the Irish Free State brought new hope and new challenges. Some emigrants returned, drawn by the promise of a free Ireland. Others stayed abroad, their hearts divided between two worlds. The Irish diaspora continued to grow, shaped by new waves of emigration in times of economic hardship. In the 1950s and 1980s, young men and women once again left for England, America, and Australia, seeking work and opportunity. Each generation carried the old stories and songs, adding new chapters to the tale. Today, the Irish diaspora is one of the largest in the world. More than 70 million people claim Irish ancestry, scattered across every continent. On St. Patrick's Day, cities from Chicago to Sydney turn green, rivers are dyed, and parades fill the streets. The Irish flag flies in places where the language is no longer spoken, but the spirit endures. In Ireland, the connection to the diaspora is strong. Families welcome relatives from abroad, tracing roots in parish records and graveyards. The music of the fiddle and the bodhrán echoes in pubs from Dublin to New York. The stories of famine and flight, of hope and heartbreak, are told and retold, a living link between past and present. The Irish diaspora is a story of survival, of finding home in a new land while never forgetting the old. It is a story of mothers and fathers, of children and grandchildren, of laughter and tears. It is a story of resilience, the ability to endure, to adapt, and to thrive, no matter where the road may lead. So, the next time you hear an Irish song, taste soda bread, or see a shamrock in a window, remember the journey that brought it there. Remember the millions who crossed oceans and continents, who carried their stories and dreams to every corner of the world. Remember that history is not just made by kings and battles, but by ordinary people who dared to hope for something better. The Irish diaspora is not just a chapter in history, it is a living story, one that continues to unfold in every family, every gathering, every song. It is a reminder that, no matter how far we travel, we carry home with us, in our hearts and in our stories. If you enjoyed this journey into the heart of the Irish diaspora, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. There are more stories waiting to be told right here.